We continue with the discussion of virtualization. In the last video we talked about or I demonstrated how my parallels allows me to instantly go from my Mac to my Windows. And here's another nice feature in Parallels, which we'll also discuss, is when you insert devices and how Parallels recognizes that and asks if you want to connect it to your Mac or virtual machine. Now, what would make a Mac user want to install Windows or use virtualization in any type of a way? Well, for one thing, for Mac users, if you have been a PC user and you have switched over to Mac, you need some type of way to run your old programs. Virtualization is probably the best route to go. If you have never used Windows, or you just for some reason want to use Windows, you can, and you're a Mac native user, you can use the virtualization program. That way you don't have to get a PC. I have been using PCs pretty much all of my life, and just got into a couple of years ago got into using Macs, and it's because of virtualization that I made the switch, because I was very interested in Macs, and I said, well, if there's a way for me to keep my Windows operating system, or at least run my programs, then I'm all for it. And I've started using virtualization programs like Parallels and VMware Fusion for Mac. As well, with Windows, you can also run versions of Linux on your Windows system. If you have Windows XP, you can install Windows Vista without even having to get a Windows Vista PC. If you have Windows Vista and you kind of don't like it, but you don't want to downgrade it or anything, you can install VMware Workstation, Parallels Workstation, VirtualBox, or Microsoft's solution, Virtualization PC. You can download that or use that and install Windows XP. And these are pretty much your solutions for virtualization if you want to run other operating systems. And if we go back to my Parallels, just to show you, let's go back and look at, if I wanted to create a new virtual machine, that's another little term you're going to need to know. Virtual machines are basically the operating system that you created and run on your main system. This Windows Vista that I'm running for my bootcamp is considered a virtual machine in Parallels. So if we want to create a new virtual machine, we see here's a list of operating systems that we can create. The disks for these operating systems for Parallels we can install all the way down to Windows 3.11, all the way to Windows 7 or other Windows. We can install Mac OS Server, Mac OS X Server, Linux. We can install all kinds of versions of Linux, Red Hat Enterprise, SUSE Linux, Debian, Red Hat, Fedora, CentOS. All of these are Linux systems. FreeBSD, the FreeBSD operating systems, OS2 Warp, MS-DOS. You can install MS-DOS. Solaris 10. You can also install OpenSolaris or other. And once you go through the necessary steps, you can go ahead and change the settings and so forth. Please note that if you would like to get into virtualization, or like if you want to install Windows XP on your Mac via virtualization, you will need to have an actual copy of Windows. It's just not going to create the entire operating system for you. You must have the operating system to create the virtual machine from. Let's take a look at some of the features in my Parallels Windows Vista virtual machine. Here we're in full screen mode. I'm using spaces to switch back and forth between Mac and Windows. I find that that's much quicker than just going to full screen and back. If we use a combination of keys, we can switch from full screen to a single screen. Now I've changed my settings and tweaked my keys, so I'm not sure what the default is. We'll look into that when we discuss parallels in more detail. And we can go ahead and adjust the size of my Windows Vista. We can see we have Windows Vista here. We could go ahead and run our other programs like Safari with Windows in the background. Essentially, the virtual machine is running as if it's its own program, pretty much. We can run all kinds of, we can look in the folders, and notice how when we started this Windows Vista, my bootcamp partition now has the Parallels logo on it, and I can now access all of the files on my Mac. We can run all of our programs, mail, address book, all with our Windows or other operating system right alongside. Now, if this is a little bit too complex, then have a nice little. Most virtualization programs have a feature where you can literally run Windows side by side with your Mac. For instance, if I press my coherence, which is the feature in Parallels, if we go here and say, what's that option? Yeah, coherence, we will then switch into a mode that allows us to use our Mac and Windows literally right with each other. So if I go down to my Windows Vista Parallels desktop icon, instantly this start menu appears, and I can open up a program such as Microsoft Word 2007 right here alongside all of my other Mac applications. Now please note that my virtual machine is running slow because I am running from my bootcamp partition, so it's gonna run dreadfully slow. But I have noticed that if you install a fresh operating system and a full virtualization, it runs pretty quick. And so we have Microsoft Word 2007 about to open up. We can go ahead and open up other folders here, and we see how they literally float on top of my Mac application. Yeah, this is gonna go slow. But when we install fresh copies of Windows and Linux, you will see just how fast virtualization really is. Right now my Mac is being stretched to its limits because I'm literally running both operating systems physically on my system. And we see here Microsoft Word 2007 struggling to open, but it'll come up soon. And there it is. We can go ahead and resize it, minimize it. And basically this is what you find. If I turn spaces off just a quick bit and show you, yeah, there we go. And we see here we have Microsoft Word opened up, and we can move it around, use our Mac, and we see we can go through our documents and all kinds of stuff. So virtualization is pretty neat, it's pretty cool, and in this service pack we will dedicate chapters looking at it and looking at the most popular virtualization programs. And that's pretty much it for this video. In the next video, we will be discussing our first virtualization program. We'll be discussing VirtualBox because it's free and I want you to download it so you can go ahead and practice with me as I show you how to use virtualization. And that's it for this video. Virtualization.